Hello everyone and welcome back to Doomlink's Live Hunts. We are here in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate again, and I'm pleased to say that we do have a full room. I don't know if this is going to last a whole 2 hours worth of a live stream, but we can cross our fingers and hope. Of course, we are in the twilight years, or I suppose the twilight months, really, if we want to be specific about the length of time, or the period of time, of the 3 Ultimate video game on the Wii U. So, I think it's in April, when all of the online functionality of the Wii U shuts down. So, yeah, we will enjoy ourselves while we can. I don't want to forget about this game, I want to make sure that I play it as frequently as possible, because after that point, my only choice will be to emulate it, and I do not know how many people are going to be emulating this game at that time. I hope that it will be enough people to sustain semi-frequent recordings on my channel, but in case that's not what eventuates, I'm going to be recording this as much as possible, and even then it's nicer to play on physical hardware, at any rate. I might bring a lance, let's do that. The quest that's on the board is Double Arzuros. Blink and you might miss it. It's going to be a very fast hunt. Soul Prominence, sure. I think my game volume is a bit too loud. Not what you're hearing, but what I actually have on my speakers. So I might have to actually reduce the volume of that. Yeah, that is too loud. I'm happy to say. Willing to admit. 3 Ultimate players will understand how Tri players felt. I don't think so. Not really. Because Tri was only up for, God, how many years was it? I think 4 years the Tri servers were up. Whereas this has been going for, well, almost 11 years. I think that by the time these servers shut down, it will have been 11 years that people were able to play this game. Doesn't quite match up, does it? You know, the Tri players, myself included, of course, felt quite abandoned by the loss of the servers. But how long was it that the Monster Hunter 1 servers lasted? I think they closed in 2011. So, there you go. It's not really a comparison even in that instance. I think... Am I ready to go? I didn't check my inventory at all. I might actually bring some Mega Potions. Even if my speakers are too loud, it shouldn't bleed into the microphone so much that you're going to hear the game through my microphone plus the actual in-the-box audio. One can only hope. Feels strange to be using the Classic Controller Pro, just because it's not what I'm used to, but it doesn't take me too long to get used to it again. Usually one full hunt will do it. I think everything's alright with the recording. What are we hunting? Double Arzuros, so it will be Area 5. They both appear in there. Usually you've got one that's close to maximum size and then one that is noticeably smaller. I don't know if that's the design of the quest, or if that's just what often happens as a matter of chance. But unless I'm going crazy, that happens every single time. Like I said, blink and you'll miss it. This is a quick hunt. It is G-rank, but okay, that is precisely how it's meant to be. You've got one that's just about maximum size, and then you've got the small one. Oh god, that is way too loud. If you can't hear that in the microphone, then I don't know. Hard to imagine. The connection is terrible, I might add. I hope that's not going to remain as bad as it looks right now. T-Rex says wow. I don't know what he means by wow. It's pretty obvious that it's going to be quick. Ooh, my Y button is very sticky on this controller. It didn't actually depress all the way when I pressed it the first time. Bloody hell. I think it's time for you to die, Mini Arzuros. Alright. Oh, my plus and Y keys are both very sticky, which suggests that it was the same spillage of liquid that has caused them to be so sticky. I was so annoyed when it happened, I don't remember what it was. I think it might have been port. I spilled port on this controller. This controller, quite frankly, is just the most sterling example of a well-manufactured controller. This thing, there's no such thing as stick drift when it comes to these controllers. And in terms of the buttons, like, I don't know how many times I would have dropped this controller, but this is the one that I got in 2010 with Monster Hunter Tri. Okay? This has survived all of the hours that I've played in Monster Hunter Tri, all of the hours that I've played in this game, and presumably I've dropped it a few times. I don't know if you can hear that, but there is something rattling around in there. But it still works just fine, and I can tell you that it looks like the end of the controller, or at the very least, the noticeable decline in the controller, is a result of me spilling liquid on it. After all this time, it was me that did it in the end. The controller itself is doing just fine. And, yeah, there you go. But maybe a person would argue, well, there's a lot less going on in the construction and design of a classic controller Pro as compared to a modern controller. Well, you know what, you can fuck off. If you want to make that argument, if you want to play devil's advocate when it comes to that, with respect, I don't really want to hear it. Because at the end of the day, I don't need special features and special functionality in my controller. I just want something that works. And works for a while. And controllers haven't been working for a while. In my experience, just to be real articulate about that. I'm going to lower the volume of my speakers, and I will be back once I've finished doing that. No, there is no specific meaning behind 9,653 plus. That was just me kicking my keyboard. As I think I've made clear in previous recordings, my recording setup is cramped and bordering upon nightmarish. Really? We're grinding this quest. What do you need from this? I'm going to ask that question. Also, Gonzalino mentions the Wii U Pro controller. I agree, that is a very quality product. It's really good. Excellently made controller. Oh, AJ has asked the question. I do actually have a keyboard plugged in, which is great. But, thanks for asking. Saves me the trouble. I don't mind doing it again, it's just if we're going to start grinding this quest, it's not going to make for very entertaining video content because it's going to be over and done with very quickly. Naga plus Sanoga, says Mira. So I don't know what they're getting out of this quest that's needed for anything Nagakuga or Sanoga related, but hopefully it means that we're not going to be doing this quest very much. I don't mind doing it twice, but any more than that and I'm... well, I'm going to be requesting an immediate change of objective. Alright, Korsta Agnavolkan. That's quite a good name, isn't it? Korsta Agnavolkan. I think I've made it very clear, but one of the greatest achievements of the translation team that worked on this game was the weapon names that they came up with. Just amazing in some cases. I'm not even going to eat. I see no reason to eat for this quest. Potato says, in relation to the conversation, or should I say appertaining to controllers being poorly manufactured these days, he says that he has gone through 5 PlayStation 5 controllers. 5. That's shocking. Even if Potato treats them poorly, and I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt. and assume that he's just using it like anyone else would use a controller. You know, you might drop it occasionally. Sometimes there might be heated moments of gaming. But to go through 5 of them, that's incomprehensible to me. It was probably Potato who told me that the DualSense controller was terrible. I think I remember asking that question a year or so ago. You know, with the understanding that I've had a poor experience with DualShock 4. Is the DualSense controller any better? And he told me, no, it's even less reliable, despite it being a more expensive controller, which is, in a way, not surprising, because when you over-engineer something, there are more points of failure, it's just what happens. But you would hope that whoever is manufacturing or engineering these products would sort of account for that, because when a person is paying that much money for a controller, it is unacceptable for that controller to only last for 6 to 12 months. It's crazy. I just don't know where the hell the world has gone when it comes to manufacturing. I'm sure some industries are fine, but others are just going downhill. And the very specific area of manufacturing called game controller manufacturing has really gone backwards. Well, thank you for calling me a really cool Monster Hunter player, but that is the convenience of modern technology. You can walk through a Walmart and watch me play Monster Hunter. There you go. Again, hopefully this is the last time we do this quest. I don't want to do it again. I've just about had enough. Apparently with the Xbox, the normal controllers are fine at the moment, like with the most modern ones, presumably. But the Elite controller is terrible. I don't even know what the Xbox Elite controller is, but I can assume that, given the naming that they've gone with, it's the special version. It's basically the Pro controller. Instead of using the word Pro, they've used the word Elite, which is slightly more juvenile, but that's Microsoft marketing for you. But, yeah. It shouldn't be possible that the Pro version, or the version with more features, is less reliable. I can tell you on a conceptual level why that happens. It's because, like I said, when you over-engineer something, or when you engineer something to be more complicated, you get more points of failure, therefore less reliability. But there should be ways of getting around that. With a product that's being manufactured for the general public to use, it's just not acceptable. But whatever. $180 presumably to get an Xbox Elite controller, and it is not a durable product. How can we live in a world where you're going to spend that much money on a product and then it doesn't even last you, say, a year? In my opinion, if you're going to spend that much money on a video game controller, that thing should last 3 years, at least. If it were somehow mucking up after 3 years, I'd be pretty pissed off after spending that kind of money, because that's the idea. You don't just pay a lot of money for features, you pay a lot of money with the expectation that you're investing in something you're not going to have to replace for a while. That's almost the entire concept behind spending more on an electronic product. You know, you think that if you spend more, oh, it's a lot to spend now, but I'm going to save money in the long term by not having to replace it. Well, that's obviously not happening with the Xbox Elite controller, or the DualSense controller. I think what's most insulting is how expensive the standard DualSense controller actually is. I think it's, you know, like $100, something like that. It's actually absurd. That's what you need to play on your PlayStation 5 console. I mean, maybe there are third-party controllers that you can connect, but what do they call it? Haptic feedback or some shit? Whatever the latest gimmick is with this thing vibrating in your hands, which apparently makes the game more immersive. Okay, I'm clearly playing the game with a controller, which means that there is a noticeable separation between the video game and me playing it, because I'm interacting with something in my hands. Well, apparently just having it vibrate in a special way in my hands makes me feel like I'm in the fucking video game. I don't know if I am unromantic or just unimaginative, but if I'm holding a fucking controller, it doesn't matter how it's going to vibrate in my hands, it's going to feel like I'm playing a video game, no matter what. So, yeah, I can assume that there are a lot of games that make use of that functionality, so you probably want to use a DualSense controller when you're playing on a PS5. Why should any person be put in a situation where it feels like they can't afford the standard controller of the console that they're playing, because maybe they need to replace it after 6 months because the thing is a piece of junk? It's just ridiculous. I feel like we've been on this subject quite a lot, not just recently, but over the years in my live streams, and it's amazing the kind of things that gamers put up with, isn't it? I don't really class myself in that category. You know, when I say the things gamers will put up with, people will inevitably say, well, Doomlink, what are you doing to fight against this? Well, I don't play the latest games. I'm just a guy who plays a lot of Monster Hunter, and when he's not playing Monster Hunter, he's playing other games that aren't new. And usually if he's playing games, he's on the PC using a controller that's not the most modern controller. So I'm not even consuming the garbage that's coming out at the moment. So I don't really have that impetus to really put Sony's feet to the fire when it comes to their manufacturing quality. But anyway, and also Microsoft and I suppose Nintendo these days, because presumably we've seen a decline in the quality of manufacturing of the Switch Pro Controller as compared to the Wii U Pro Controller. Alright. It's going to be double Zenoga. I'll actually go Greatsword. That sounds like fun. Awaken Greatsword? Do I have... I do have an Awaken Ice Greatsword. It is the Devastator. Oh. Is that what it's called? Something like that. No, it is Devastator. I wasn't too sure if I was making that up or if I was right. Because this is the fully upgraded version of the Ravager blade. Excuse me. I was pretty confident about the word Ravager, but Devastator, I really wasn't sure. But no, I was correct. I have to say that the weapon names in this game being so unique, Devastator is not a good example of that, but just on the subject of weapon names, because the weapon names are so unique, once you've learnt it, you don't really forget it. It's quite... it just sticks in your mind. It's very specific. I have feline heroics, what joy. No, I will not be making use of that. Potato says that haptic feedback is well and truly useless. And Gunzolino says that he turned the haptic feedback off as soon as possible to get a little bit more battery life out of the already terrible battery life of the PlayStation 5 controller. I hadn't even thought of it in those terms, but needless to say, if it's doing all of this fancy vibrating, yeah, it's going to be... draining the battery life much faster. Peaberry makes the point quite appropriately and relevantly, because this is a relevant topic of conversation these days. He just uses wired controllers. See, I can't even go to say wired anymore because it's a word that never passes my lips these days. But yeah, he uses wired controllers because he doesn't have to worry about the battery life at that point. And you know, that is something that I think people are going to take for granted when it comes to modern technology. Just the idea that you can make a choice with your purchases that means that the whole concept of limited battery life no longer exists. You know, that's become a lot less common with, say, earphones these days, but I still use wired earphones because, to me, and also headphones, the idea is that I don't want to be in a situation where I've used it too much and now it's out of battery and it needs to charge. Or, you know, if someone wants to play devil's advocate and say, well, the good products will have like 40 hours of battery life, so you should never be in a position where you've used it too much. But, you know, let's also say that I don't want to be in the situation where I have to charge it at all. You know, why do I have to worry about that? And for what benefit? But that's a really long subject of discussion to get on, because then you talk about the industry and how they've specifically tried to push people in that direction by removing the 3.5mm jack from all mobile devices. Or the majority of mobile devices. I do apologize for the performance of the game. 3 Ultimate runs really badly in Area 5 of the deserted island. It's just a thing that you learn to get used to. So for those of you who are not used to watching me play 3 Ultimate, yeah. This, what you're seeing here, is entirely normal. We seem to be doing okay with 2 Zenogres at the same time. But it's making me... It's almost hurting my eyes to deal with 15 FPS Monster Hunter. Hello, Ethan. I'm not going to take that opportunity. We have only paintballed the one that we're focusing on, which is good. I'm glad to see that. It's like my eyes don't know where to look. My brain doesn't know what's going to happen because it's running at a frame rate that it's just not familiar with. It's really uncomfortable. Looks like the other Zenogre has lost interest. He realizes that we don't want to play ball with him, so he's out of the picture now. Potato, honestly, this is just the way consumer electronics are going. You pay more for less, really. And they give you the illusion that you're getting more through features, but actually what people want, which is something that manufacturers I think understand but still try to trick people about, is that what people want is something reliable, something that works well, and something that's really worth their money. You can't substitute quality and durability for just features, or with features. Features are nice, but they should be additions. They shouldn't be something that's replacing the core functionality. To me, core functionality is, can I use this fucking controller without it breaking within 6 months? That's core functionality. That's basic durability. So, if it fucking vibrates in a fancy way, or if it's got a little touchpad that I'm never gonna use, or whatever, that's unhelpful to me. Even if I like that, I'm not gonna choose to have that over something durable. Why would I? The only reason why other people choose that is because they're not really thinking about it very much. They just get the newest controller, and then they carp a little bit about how it's expensive, but they don't really put 2 and 2 together and realize that they're paying more for less. And yeah, if you spend any time at all looking into how manufacturers are actively shitting on the customer, on the consumers these days, I can assure you that you can see the same thing in almost all areas of technology. The consumer is just getting terribly mistreated by corporations. My stamina is not looking very good, but I don't think that I need to worry about that too much. Coming into 3 Ultimate is actually really pleasant because I've got the Awaken weapon option. Maybe I should rephrase that. I have the option to use Awaken weapons. I do have that option in Monster Hunter Tri, it's just I don't have many weapons in that game that are Awaken yet. I haven't taken the time to forge them. But even then, there aren't that many, to be honest. Yeah, in Monster Hunter Tri, or in that save that I've been using, I definitely prioritized just the standard weapons. I hadn't yet gotten to the point where I made all of the Awaken weapons. So... yeah. It still takes a long time to do that, but... anyway. I'm not going to sharpen up for you. I'll make it sound as if he's unworthy. I'll go for the head. I don't particularly need the tail to be cut. I understand these guys need material, but hey. Is what it is. See, this is the thing when it comes to Awaken. Ethan just does not value Awaken at all. And the reason why he doesn't value it is because the idea of being in an endgame situation in a Monster Hunter game is so foreign to him that he doesn't actually see it as being a worthwhile option. I don't say that to put Ethan down, but it's true. He's never been in a situation where he has made all elements for all weapon types and then wants some variety in that. He can only imagine what that's like. So, yeah, Awaken in that situation, or in that circumstance, is a lot of fun. It's great. The weapons are still viable, more or less. So it's just a bit of fun, I guess, variety. And there you go. Replayability. Eventually you're going to get sick of using the same fire, sword and shield every time you play. And to me, it's a lot more fun to use a fire, sword and shield that is going to get its fire element in a totally different way. Like, just the whole balance of stats is different because of the existence of the Awaken skill, as compared to, say, a different fire, sword and shield that is unrelated to Awaken. So, you know, you've already made a judgment on the best fire, sword and shield you can make, so making another one almost feels like a waste. It's like, well, I'm knowingly now forging something that is worse than the main option, and I'm using that just for the sake of variety. It's not as fun as using Awaken, because Awaken, depending on the weapon you're using, can actually be better or worse. Like the best example I can think of is Stygian's and Ogre weapons in this game. They are almost exclusively Awaken only, and they are really, really strong in this game. Just amazing. So, yeah, it's just it's a fun, creative way to just use something a little different to the norm. Mira has fainted in the last moments of the quest. I don't remember if we captured the other one. I don't think... yeah, we didn't capture it, but I don't have a pitfall trap to capture this one. The best scenario, in my opinion, is to capture one and kill the other, but that's alright. We'll kill both. Of course, if we knock him out of his enraged, charged mode, I could shock trap him. But the chances of us doing that before he dies is pretty low. Are pretty low. Grammar with Doomlink. I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter 1 in my own time. I actually wanted to play it today. If there were people to play with, I would have done a Hunting with Purpose recording in Monster Hunter 1. The Japanese version. Which would have been a lot of fun, I think. But it was not to be. There were no people online at all. So, I mean, that's actually not typical. Usually you can find at least 2 people playing, but today was not one of those days, so yeah. 3 Ultimate was my second choice. I've just been having so much fun in Monster Hunter 1. There's so much, it's just really gratifying. It's a very bare bones Monster Hunter experience. If you've played 2nd generation Monster Hunter or Monster Hunter Freedom 1, just in terms of content, it feels really basic. But just the knowledge that you're playing the first of all of the games, and using those controller mechanics, where you're having to use the analog stick, it really just, it's its own experience. And it's enjoyable. It's a lot of fun. So my aim is to build that character as much as I can before carrying it over into Monster Hunter G. So there is no guild card in Monster Hunter games preceding Monster Hunter Freedom. So that means Monster Hunters 1, G, and DOS. No. Well, yeah, DOS doesn't have a guild card. But I think technically Monster Hunter Freedom came out before DOS. DOS was 2006. The Japanese version of Freedom, Monster Hunter Portable, came out in late 2005, I think. So that's technically not true to say all the games that came up. Well, it is still true that all the games that came before Monster Hunter Freedom 1 didn't have a guild card system, but it is also the case that Monster Hunter DOS, which no doubt would have been in production at the same time, didn't end up having a guild card system either. It wasn't properly established until Freedom 2 in the 2nd generation. But yeah, what that really means is that the concept of building up your character is entirely related to what you've forged and what quests you've completed. That's pretty much it. Once I've completed pretty much all of the quests, or all the quests that I want to complete in the game, and I've made the armor sets and the weapons that I want to make, I'm not going to feel bound to that character anymore. I'll be able to come back and use that character if I want to play Monster Hunter 1 again, but there is no real clear distinction between a person who has played 300 hours of Monster Hunter 1 and a person who's played 1,000 hours of Monster Hunter 1. You're not going to be able to look at their character and really tell the difference. It's just what it is. So, yeah, for that reason, I just have no expectation of struggling to pull myself away from that game. If it were a game with a guild card system, or an HR break system, with no defined limit to HR except for 999, I would feel a little differently about moving on to the G-rank version of the game. What am I doing? I am selling my materials, and I have also accidentally put away a Zenogre material that I cannot at this stage locate in my box, which is really annoying. So it's taking up a slot somewhere, and I need to get rid of it. I'm just looking for something sticking out. Alright, my only option is to sort my box and look for it in the Zenogre section. There we go. Found it. Zenogre Talon. Something different, says Mira. Save the princess. Well, after just mentioning Stygian Zenogre, we are going to actually hunt him. Well, Freedom 2 had a pretty bare bones guild card as well. I think it was a little bit more involved than Freedom 1, but you didn't have weapon uses. So, for me, that's a big deal. Freedom Unite was the first game to have a guild card as we would recognize it. Like, all of that information. And for me, being able to see... Like, for example, Freedom 1's guild card was stupid. It showed you how many quests you had completed, but it would cap at 999. So, that's great. Just the idea that Capcom couldn't even conceive of a person playing their game long enough to complete more than 1,000 quests, or more than 999 quests in a specific quest level. That's pretty sad, isn't it? But yeah, it actually caps out there. But there is no weapon usage indicator, or graph, I suppose is what I would say. There's no weapon usage graph in the Freedom 1 or Freedom 2 guild cards, which is a shame. Like, that's one of my favorite measurements of the amount of time you've put into a Monster Hunter game. And also the way in which you play Monster Hunter. What should I use for this? We'll go Thunder Damage, because it doesn't really matter if we're elementally effective against Lagombi. I'm sure Thunder is fine for Lagombi. I might go Sword and Shield, Awaken Sword and Shield. I'm going to use the Gimbal Gaia, which is a fun little weapon. Although I don't think I'm going to make use of the triple slot. No. Will not. No, I don't think For Ultimate had... It didn't have a cap of 999. If there was a cap in For Ultimate, which I didn't know about, or forgot about at least, it definitely wasn't 999. For number of quests completed in a specific quest star level. Well, I shouldn't say star level, you know. Low rank village, low rank village, high rank, guild low, guild high, G, guild quests. That is definitely not what the limit was. I don't know what it would be. Maybe it's a 4-digit limit, which I can conceive of. I think there is a 4-digit limit on all guild cards, in terms of quests completed. And I know that there's a 4-digit limit for... Is it? No, maybe there isn't a 4-digit limit for weapons used. I don't remember. But I can conceive of there being a limit like that, or a cap on quests completed. Oh. World and Iceborne do have a... What? A 3-digit cap in World and Iceborne on quests completed. Are you sure? That's extraordinary. Why would they do that? Trying to be old school in a way that really nobody benefits from or asked for. Lagombi. Oh, I didn't even check AJ's hunter rank. Apparently he doesn't have much G rank level equipment. I stupidly pressed plus to complete my combo there. You can tell I've been playing too much Try. Well, that explains why AJ was using a Fire Sword and Shield against Zenoga. I was going to question that, but then realized that what I was talking about at the time was more exciting. Or perhaps we'll say more pressing. Can anyone else confirm what Gonzalino is saying in the chat? He says that there is, in the guild card of Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter World Iceborne, a limit of 999 for quests completed. That's incredible to me. I'm willing to believe him, but it's true. Why would they do that? In a game, surely, where Capcom had the benefit of so many games prior to that point, in terms of, you know, game design, like so many games had been made before that point. Surely they would realize how people play their games, how people consume their games. They're going to be eclipsing 999 on their quests completed in no time at all, if they're playing the game seriously. So why would they deny people the ability to see that? That's so stupid. It doesn't make any sense to me. Blackberry asks, what my favorite Monster Hunter game is, it's probably the one that I'm playing now. Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. It's a pretty simple equation. My favorite third generation Monster Hunter game is Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, and the third generation of Monster Hunter is my favorite Monster Hunter generation. So, yeah, it depends really on what you want to focus on, but just based on that purely, I think it's safe to say this is my favorite Monster Hunter game. It's got the most content out of any third-gen game. So, yeah, they did a lot of things wrong with this game. I don't need to get on that subject again. It's turning into a bit of a, well, such conversations and arguments and discussions are becoming supererogatory at this stage because everyone's heard it before, and if it's my favorite game, I don't really need to criticize it ad infinitum. That is of benefit to no one. At this stage, I'm just floored that Monster Hunter World and Iceborne have a quest limit of 999 in the guild card for completed quests. That is, to me, that's inconceivable. I can't account for that. I don't know what Capcom were thinking. I don't know what thought process led them to capping it there. Because your guild card is one of those things that you use to measure how much time you've played the game. And seeing how many quests you've completed is a really important way to see that. It's an important way to measure your dedication to a single character. And they've removed that. They didn't fail to add it. I think that they removed it for some reason. It's really sad. And I think that's too kind to say it's a strange choice. I think it's inconceivable and negligent. And if I wanted to be cynical, well, not cynical, but I guess unkind, I'd say that to make a change like that actually holds your player base in contempt. I think that's a contemptuous choice, to do that to the guild cards. I'm going to say that I probably never played enough Monster Hunter World to actually reach that cap myself. I stopped playing Monster Hunter World before Iceborne came out, so that might give you an idea of how little I played that game. I probably played a combined 450 to 550 hours of Monster Hunter World, but that was across two versions. That was the PS4 and PC versions. So in terms of character progression, I don't think I ever reached the point where I capped out. But that's just, to me, beyond my reckoning. What were they thinking? They were either being malicious, or they just weren't thinking at all. Just weren't thinking at all. And to do it for two versions as well. Pathetic. Well, there you go. The weapon use is still going to 4 digits. So why did they limit the quests completed to 3 digits? Oh, it's asleep. And I do have... Oh, this person... Mira, apparently, is, wins the award for most unobservant hunter of the year. I'm happy to use that... I'm happy to say that because it's only February. It's actually the 1st of February today. But yeah. Most unobservant hunter of the year. The monster had been asleep for millennia. And Mira continues to shoot. And Doomlink wins the award of Hyperbole of the Year. Here we go. So, Potato does have an explanation for it. Okay. So, it says, it's possible because of the guiding lands, an endgame Iceborne zone where the goal is to level up each area in the region to get better monsters and drops without needing to go on quests. Maybe they assumed everyone would just do that. Which would therefore mean that they had the guiding lands and the system that it was based on in mind since they made the original Monster Hunter World game, which doesn't make sense because how is that fair to the people who played the original Monster Hunter World as much as they did before the release of Iceborne? Because I can tell you, there would have been many people, thousands and thousands of people, who capped out before Iceborne came out. So, it still begs the question, what were they thinking? It's not fair. And hopefully my position on it, and the strength of feeling that I have is clear, considering how much I'm going on about it, despite the fact that I have no intention of ever fucking playing that game again. It actually astounds me that Capcom would be that myopic. I don't think they even are. I think they're just contemptuous. I think they're just nasty little cretins who just don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. Doomlink decides that Capcom doesn't give a fuck because they cap quests completed in the guild card at 3 digits. Well, no. But to me, the position that I've always had when it comes to Capcom in 5th generation is that they don't give a fuck, and that's why we get what we get. But if ever you needed evidence of how little they care beyond what I've said thus far, well, there you go. That just add that to the pile. Add that to the list of things that demonstrate a complete lack of sensitivity to what people actually want in endgame Monster Hunter among the player base. And apparently the guiding lands also caps out at 999. Pathetic. Just pathetic. And apparently the guiding lands is a bad region that everyone ignores anyway. So even if that was the origin of that decision, or the impetus that led them to making that, to literally taking functionality away from the guild card, it was misguided not just in terms of, the tone-deaf approach, but also insofar as the guiding lands not even being any good. But yeah. Well, yeah, it actually probably... It sounds like excessive theory crafting when I put it this way, but maybe it's indicative, and I've been prompted in this direction by what Ethan said in the chat. But maybe it's indicative of the way that they've approached game design. They're not intending to cater to the people who want to play Monster for a long period of time. They're all about that instant gratification. They're not anticipating a player base of people that are going to play that game and just that game for years. well, not just that game, but particularly that game, over a period of years, what they were picking up on was the mainstream gaming community. These are people who have such a short attention span that they will play a game for maybe 3 months maximum, and then, oh, let's move on to the next game. That's just what they're like. And that's precisely what they were building their game around. They wanted to not sell a community of people. Well, they weren't looking to sell their game on its own to the mainstream population of gamers. They were looking to sell the series to them. You know, the idea that you would get so much replayability out of a game, like a single game, that the person would be able to quest that much, wasn't really in line with their objective in the development of the game. So it could also be a reflection of that. To me, it still doesn't feel right. It still feels tone deaf, because surely there would be a large percent. Well, in fact, it would be safe to say that a majority of people who played the games up to 4th generation would continue into World. So this is the thing. This is what frustrates me, and I'm sorry to take so much time discussing this. But, like, why not have it? What is... I'm sorry, I must sound bewildered. It's because I am. It doesn't make any sense to me. Why would they not have it? What exactly is going to be so difficult about showing 4 digits worth of completed quests? I just don't understand it. Because you can sit here and explain why they wouldn't do it. But when you realize that there's no reason for them to not, because to do it is to, what? Just make it, like, just type in the code. 4 digits instead of 3. I mean, it accumulates on its own. Like, what? There must be a reason relating to game design that I don't understand. You know, maybe a game designer would know. Maybe accumulating that data. Maybe they were pushing the envelope so hard when it came to the data that was being either collated or represented in the guild card that literally they couldn't do it. They had reached a maximum and couldn't show 4 digits worth of quests completed. Again, just a random example, but it's, you know, maybe a game designer would understand. I don't. It doesn't make any sense. I will err on the side of it being contemptuous. I do not want to give Capcom the benefit of the doubt. We are doing Xenoga again. Well, again, what you're saying, Potato, is what I suggested as a possibility before. It's that they just weren't thinking. Could they have done it without thinking at all? Just no specific thought process led to that decision. They just did it, and that was it. Nobody sat down. But the reason why I don't think that that's possible is because when you're making a video game, you are looking at it with a level of detail that actually surpasses what the gamer is going to experience. Yeah, the gamer, if they're playing a lot of it, they are going to notice a lot of details. But imagine if you're involved in building the fucking game from the ground up. It's not something that you're going to just not look at at all. Like, you're going to know that. You're going to know that it's at 3 digits, and, you know, like night follows day, you're going to look at that and go, oh, is 3 digits enough? Like night follows day, you're going to look at 3 digits as a game designer and go, is that enough? I think they made a conscious decision for some reason that it was. Why? I've got no fucking idea. Because they had so many games prior to that point that made it very clear that people play enough Monster Hunter to surpass 3 digits worth of quests completed. I mean, just my guild card as an example. I'm at 2,000 G rank quests. I'm only HR 550. it caps out at 999 for HR. Okay, so, you know, what the fuck were they thinking is the question. What the fuck were they thinking? There must have been a thought process, and it was either holding the player base in contempt, or something that I literally cannot conceive of. Something that is beyond my reckoning. And there will be people listening who do not find this topic of conversation to be worth the amount of time that I've spent discussing it. I'm going to assume that all of those people just haven't experienced Endgame Monster Hunter enough. They haven't reached a point where... Sorry, I need to make sure that I'm getting ready for this quest. I might use Awaken Thunder Gunlance, if I have such a thing. I don't think I do, actually. Maybe Awaken Thunder Lance? But yeah, seriously, if you've experienced Endgame Monster Hunter, I feel like you're going to understand why I'm focusing on it. Oh, not thunder, we want ice, sorry. So Awaken Thunder, sorry, Awaken Ice. I'm so distracted by this topic of conversation, it's so incomprehensible to me. How about I just bring End of Night? I've forced these people to wait for long enough already. Okay, well, Ethan's recent return to Monster Hunter World has left him with this nugget of wisdom. He thinks that Capcom should eat a bag of dicks. So, there you go. No, I did not fix that, Ethan. It's something that, well, it's actually something that I can do for console games. That I can do. But, for PC games, I haven't worked it out. Oh, I see. I thought you were saying that after going into World and playing it, the conclusion that you've drawn, just generally speaking, is that Capcom can eat a bag of dicks, but you were saying that me spending too much time on this topic, and anyone who has an issue with that, they can eat a bag of dicks. Fair enough. Well, I don't know why you haven't reached that conclusion as well. Sonoka starts here, yeah. I need to pour myself another glass. It's interesting. I think AJ said that he had, like, literally 2 G-rank weapons, or I think he suggested that anyway. He's made a good choice. The Grongigas hammer with Awaken, that's... Remember, Awaken's a fucking terrible armor skill. Well, Ethan is indeed wrong, because Grongigas hammer with Awaken, really, really good. Amazing. One of the best, or one of the strongest, most effective weapons in the game. You rounded your opinion on it, okay. Well. Power to you, I guess. I've mentioned it before, but this thing doesn't have much paralysis, so it often is the case that the monster dies before I can actually get a successful paralysis off with this weapon. What, vindicate me? You said you rounded your opinion on it. That should mean that your criticisms have softened, so how would that vindicate my position? Because surely, you know, we've agreed on that, right? So, for your position to have rounded or softened is what I would say. I understand what you mean by rounded. It means that you've taken on board the positives more than you did before. But, you know, how is that going to vindicate my position? It's... really? That's what you meant by rounded. You filled in the empty gap, so you have a less forgiving opinion. Okay, well... fair enough. So you feel like you have a more comprehensive understanding of why World is a shit game. Not a more fair analysis, but I guess more fair, but you've effectively reached the same conclusion. Just with more detail as to why it's shit. Fair enough. Well, that's always good to hear. Ugh. I tried to turn around and shield that incoming golf swing, but it turned out to not be necessary, which is good news. Because I completely failed in the attempt to do that. Oh, I still haven't done my Wyvern fire. What a terrible thing to have forgotten to do. I believe that made contact. I couldn't quite see, there was a Zenoga in the way. What do you mean? I think that's quite reasonable, Peaberry. Peaberry says that he hates Clutch Claw more than he hates Wyvern riding. I agree with that. I think that makes sense. I think because Clutch Claw was a lot more deeply integrated into the combat system than Wyvern riding was. Wyvern riding, with my experience of playing Rise, didn't feel that necessary. There were a lot of confrontations that I had in Rise where that wasn't even an opportunity. It would pop up sometimes, and definitely in the earlier game. I'm trying to remember, like, what would even bring about a scenario where you could ride the monster, but it was mounting, wasn't it? That's right. It was they replaced the mounting system with the riding system. That's right. I had completely forgotten about that. That shows you how long it's been since I played Rise. I actually had forgotten that initially. So it replaced the mounting system. And I just didn't do mounting attacks. That's why... so that's different to me. To me, replacing the mounting system with the Wyvern riding system is not as egregious as what they did with the Clutch Claw system. So I agree, and also feel that it is a thoroughly uncontroversial opinion that Clutch Claw is worse. Well, how ironic is that? I was told by Vernon, and possibly one or two other people, that Sunbreak actually addressed a lot of the concerns that I had. It turns out that cynical old me was, I guess, well placed to not be tempted by that siren call, because I've just been told by Gonzalino that in Sunbreak, Wyvern riding was forced upon you more so than in the original version. Why am I not fucking surprised? Honestly. I'm sure people... whoever told me that, and I know that Vernon did, definitely. But whoever else told me that, I'm sure they had the best of intentions, but seriously, like... the depths of my... or the amount of criticisms that I had for Rise were not something that could have been solved by one single G-rank update, okay? This is just... it's not possible. And by the sounds of it, certain things were actually made worse, so I'm not... I have no doubt that the balance would have remained heavily negative as far as my interpretation of the game is concerned. I would have remained very, very disheartened by it, and I'm glad that I didn't waste the time. Very glad that I didn't waste the time with Sunbreak. I felt honestly insulted that I'd spent the amount of time that I did playing Rise, but it was about a month. You know, I spent about a month, I think it was 3 weeks, something like that, on Rise. That was too much. But I just needed to be sure that it was the worst Monster Hunter game that I'd ever played. I just needed to be sure. And it was. It was just... It was astonishing. My mind almost melted playing that game. I couldn't believe... Like, if I sat down, without being silly about it, without being unreasonable, if I had to conceive of a Monster Hunter game that on the surface looked good, but underneath the facade was actually a complete mess, I couldn't have made a worse game than Capcom did. I couldn't have done it. They almost... They've got a talent for it. In the most adroit fashion, in the most adept and expert manner, they created the most hollow expression of a Monster Hunter game that I think is possible to conceive of. They just... Whilst simultaneously on the surface making it look good. When I say on the surface, I mean you just look at it. Like, let's say, look at a trailer. You know, I could say, oh, let's make it have 90s PS1 3D graphics. You know, something like that. Low budget PS1 3D graphics. I mean making it bad in a clever way. In a way that actually looks like deliberate game design of, you know, whatever year that game came out. When did it come out? 2021? Something like that. Oh yeah, I'll give you my guild card. Sorry. Send to AJ. Mira has just typed lightning sack in the chat. That's probably what they called Ethan back in high school. I just thought I'd preempt the joke. Am I going oh, Giggy Red. I was getting really confused. It drops from Giggy Red and I'm like, Red? This isn't... We're not talking about Kezu here. There's no red Kezu. And then I realized, oh yeah, Baleful Giganox turns red when enraged. I just wouldn't have thought to refer to him as Red Giganox. I don't know. To me, I'd be more focused on the fact that he's fucking yellow. Wait, what? What? I'm so confused. Okay. These guys are differentiating between red and yellow Giganox. Now, I'm completely confused. What are they talking about? No, yeah, seriously, the only Giganox that is simultaneous... okay, there is no yellow and red Giganox. They're the same fucking thing. So how can Mira say, drops from red Giganox, and Tirak is like, no, the yellow one. That's like saying, I don't know, does this drop from maroon Elatrion? And your response is, no. Rusty red Elatrion. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's like a riddle. Hello, Tavo. Good to see you. Did I complete all the arena quests? I can't believe that. AJ's been going through my guild card. Yeah, don't look at this. That's terribly embarrassing. I don't want anyone to look at that. No, what this should show is that I don't care about this aspect of my guild card progress. I've never cared for awards. I'm just interested in weapon usage and quests completed. That's all I've ever cared about. I'm shocked that I've done all the fucking... Holy God. I almost couldn't believe it. Oh, you're wrong. I've got... this, well, I've technically completed them all, but I don't have all weapons completed, I don't think. Oh no, this is just about best time, so... Yeah, see, I don't have all weapons done for all arena quests, but you are correct that I have technically completed all of the quests, yeah. Well... Now that I have a better understanding of what you mean, I'm less surprised. Yeah, I don't have the earrings. I think I've specifically avoided creating sets that need them. I've made the barrage earring too many times. I've done it like twice now in Monster Hunter Tri. I've done it in Freedom Unite. I've done it in Portable Third. I'm sick of it. I don't like doing arena quests, so having to make the fucking barrage earring or barrage piercing, depending on what game you're playing, I can't do it again. It's too much. It gives you load up plus 10 for those who are not familiar with that fact. Alright, water damage. What would be fun? Hunting horn? Water hunting horn? What the fuck is that? What is my water hunting horn in this game? Could be anything. Apparently, I didn't make one. Okay. I'm actually not surprised, because I had no recollection of me having a water hunting horn. Okay, so hunting horn is not going to work then. AJ is already using hammer, so I won't use hammer. Let's go water bow. Spread water bow. I don't know what the hell that's going to be. That's ice. So what we do is we go load up spread, and then we scour my bows for anything. Okay, water. This one is like someone having a serious breakdown of communication. But anyway, sorry, that was probably culturally insensitive. Anyway, seriously, there's far too many repeating sounds in that word is what I'm trying to say. So water, spread level 4, let's do that. No, I don't think we want that. I don't think so. Let's look for another one. I just feel like purple Ludroth is not a good choice. Aqua Steed Harp, is this what we want? No. Water Arcan Victrine? That's what we want. See, I would sooner use Cedeus Bow at level 3 charge than I would use Royal Ludroth Bow at level 4 charge. Hopefully you understand where I'm coming from when I say that. Arcan Victrine, here we go. I, of course, thank the team for being patient with me. I'm going to make sure that I actually changed my set to the non-loader. That is important for me to check. Alright. I don't use bow nearly enough, do I? It's quite sad. I'll try to do more of that. Just one of those weapon types that I forget exists for some reason. I have no business forgetting that it exists, but that's what's been happening. Now, if I remember, strange thing to be able to remember, but I don't think this bow can load power coatings. I was correct. I'll bring exhaust coatings. No, actually, that will replace the elemental damage, so I'm not going to bring exhaust coatings after all. Peaberry likes arena. I don't like having to do it. When I want to forge something and I need coins, it feels like a distraction. I don't like to do arena. I don't like being forced into it. I've said that twice now, so I must really mean it. Well, Peaberry agrees that having to do it sucks. But I guess it's fun. If it's just you and one other person, it is fun. I do enjoy Arena in a sense. The idea that there's a pre-made loadout and you just have to make do with what you've got there. That's pretty fun. I like that idea. In concept, I 100% appreciate it. For me, it's been an opportunity in the past to use loadouts, but more specifically weapons, that I would just never use in any other circumstance, and that is a lot of fun. But unfortunately my wider experience with arena hunting has been less enjoyable. It's because I've had to do a lot of it, I've had to grind it, or do what feels like grinding it. I think it's just what happens when you're not that passionate about arena, and then you put yourself in a situation where in multiple games you have to make the barrage piercing. If you've experienced that, making the barrage piercing in multiple games, and you're not a huge exponent of arena hunting, I can assure you that you're not going to be thinking very highly of arena hunts. Here in the year of 2024, as a jaded ex-veteran. I'm not really an ex-veteran. I'm getting a spam call on WhatsApp and it's actually fucking minimized my stream chat, which is really fucking unhelpful. Yes, I will report the call. Report and delete chat. Thank you. Good on you, WhatsApp. Alright. Now that I've stopped receiving a call from a random group of people, I can read the chat. Yeah, I'm not sure about spread being a good choice of arrow type for this particular monster, because what you're seeing is, you know, maybe 1 or 2 arrows missing their mark each time I shoot, which is crap for damage. Might actually arc shot you here. That was a good choice. This has explosive arc shot, so I'm glad that we're pretty much all going ranged except for AJ, because that would really disrupt a Blade Master team. I don't know what they were actually thinking with Blast Arc Shot. Like, seriously, there are enough things in this game that fuck with your team. Why would they add a new thing? Blast Arc Shot, what the fuck? You know, it's a great idea until you actually think about it in the context of multiplayer Monster. Fucking Capcom. That almost took out AJ. I'd love to get a heavy flinch with a blast arc shot. It would be very satisfying. Almost got slapped by the face. It does happen sometimes. It is an experience that I've had before. Alright, go for it, Ethan. He's going to regale us with some details about his worsening, or worsened, opinion of world after having returned to it. Feels bad to not actually be using power coatings here, but I'm sure the balance of the bow makes it so that it's still good damage. That's what you have to tell yourself, of course. Just trust that the bow is strong enough to make up for it. See, this is why I've been aiming down the side of my bow. I actually need to aim it down, because Giganox is too low to the ground in order for the standard hip-fire position to work properly. What Ethan's describing there about... Well, that's actually how we met. So Ethan and I met in Monster Hunter World. Back when it first came out, so 2018. And we were both playing in the same community. It was... So the old Monster Hunter podcast, the Teamwork podcast, one of the members of it, Shepard, with the YouTube name Social Dissonance, he had a little online community there. And we were all playing together. It was good fun. And honestly, thanks to that community, my memories of playing World for the first month or so, really positive. You know, I have very, very fond memories of playing that game when it first came out. And meeting Ethan and all those guys. It was really good. Excellent time. And Mira is dead again. Every time I see that name, I just think of mummies. Someone's going to ask why. It's because if you were to have two eyes in that name, that would be the Japanese word for mummy. I sort of stumbled on that word, mummy. M-U-M-M-Y. Mira. Ethan, I'd sort of press you on the story comment about how it takes you through a poorly written story. It's an interesting point coming from you, because I know that for you, when you play video games, you always need for there to be some sort of justification for the world, some explanation for it. Why was it that World failed to do that, but the other games succeeded there? Because Monster Hunter has never been very good about telling a story in the game itself, and I feel like Monster Hunter 4 was the first game to really put effort into that, and World felt like it was going even further when it came to telling a story. So what was it about World and the telling of that story that was less convincing than a game, for example, that didn't make much attempt to tell a story in the first place? Didn't make much attempt to tell a story of any kind. Yes, please do. Managed to get a Nahabra Cutwing out of that. Accidentally took a Giganox material. Have to go and look for that. Excitable A-lister. I don't even know that character. Where is Giganox stuff anyway? Here we go. Found it, and it's gone. Oh, he's the red-haired guy. I do know him. Oh, I see. So when the game doesn't take the trouble to present a story, it doesn't actually negatively affect your immersion. But if the game takes the time to present a story, and the story's kind of shit, that is automatically going to be worse than a game that hasn't really taken the time to present a story. Instead, when it doesn't present the story, it just makes it feel like it's you. It's like a first-person perspective. It's like, I am the hunter. This is from the perspective of a person who immerses themselves in the scenario of a game. That's Ethan. Like, I don't really immerse myself in the scenario of a game so much. It's important for me on a conceptual level for there to be a scenario, but my level of immersion with a game is not the same as Ethan. So it's interesting to hear that actually the presentation of a bad story is noticeably worse than the lack of a presentation of a story. So, yeah, but it makes sense, obviously. I don't know what our next hunt is. I'm glad that we did have a quest that I wasn't expecting pop up, because we were told early on that these guys were doing Nagakuga and Zenoga. We have yet to see a Nagakuga, but we did end up finding a baleful Giganox, which I'm always happy to fight because that monster is in one game and we're playing it. And it's Zenoga again. I can put up with having lots of Zenoga hunts because at the end of the day, there's enough variety. We're doing other monsters. We're going back and forth. What's a fun ice weapon to use? What's a fucking weird ice weapon? Ugh, probably something Awaken. There's so many weapons in this game compared to the other first-gen games. I have absolutely no business holding onto this many rusted hammers. Can you believe this? I've got 6 rusted hammers. That's pathetic. Well, not pathetic, but it is absurd. Let's get rid of some of them. I don't think I need more than 3. How many things can I forge with the rusted hammer? Let's just sell 3 of them now. It's ridiculous. It's cluttering up my box. Very silly. What's a weird ice weapon? That's a weird one. What the hell is that? It's just an unfamiliar name. There's nothing very weird about a Barioth Lance. I just wasn't familiar with the name. I was actually very late forging this. That's why I didn't recognize it. I know a weird ice weapon. It's actually Durambros Lance, Awaken. Very, very rarely used online. Or maybe it's water. Ah, that's a shame. It's water. But check this out. Rusted Durambros Lance. It's a giant fucking halberd. It's very cool. Next time we fight a monster that's weak to water, I'll try to do that. Or try to use that. Let's use the Idean Crown instead. One of the longest lances in the series, I might add. I think it's about the same length as the Skyscraper. It's just much thinner. Yeah. Well, that's funny, because obviously the whole reason behind the story being told in the way that it's told in World is to immerse the player more. And it's actually resulted in a negative effect for someone like Ethan, for whom game immersion is absolutely key. It's a big part of how he experiences a game. So it's so funny to me that their attempt to immerse the hunter really totally backfired with a person who really values that kind of thing. Can't hit me. Take that. Gotta love this lance. How long is it? I will try to read that, Ethan. Sort of in the heat of battle, but... I will read it, I think, when there is a pause in the confrontation. Or in a situation like this. Yeah. Yeah, you see, that's really something that I noticed very early on with Monster Hunter. It was with 5th gen Monster Hunter. They do trick you into thinking that the confrontations are more dynamic. It's one of the brilliant examples of simplicity, like less is more. The concept of less is more is very, very well demonstrated in traditional Monster Hunter combat versus 5th gen Monster Hunter combat. You're not getting more just because it seems like more is going on. It's a very good point. The pacing of the hunt is very negatively impacted by the clutch claw, which is true. Aesthetically does not feel like Monster Hunter, is Ethan's final gripe. Which I think is fair. I think it's because it's just not... It was intended to be a big change. It was intended to really feel like this very Americanized RPG. They walked away from the JRPG aspect of Monster Hunter with Monster Hunter World, and I think that's why you see that the aesthetic is not the same. It's because there was no intention for the aesthetic to be the same. Capcom were just sensitive to the fact that it had to at least be similar enough to the other games to still be called Monster Hunter, but I think that if they could have made a new IP, they would have done so, but I think they didn't have the confidence to make literally a new name for it. You know, I very often made the joke years ago, and probably still do occasionally, that Monster Hunter World isn't a Monster Hunter game. It's because it's not just on an aesthetic level. The whole thought process behind the game's creation is just not the same. It literally could just be an offshoot. You know, it's a Capcom RPG, and I think it's different enough that it could, well, I don't actually agree with that. I don't agree that the end result of Monster Hunter the end result of Monster Hunter World is different enough to warrant being called something other than Monster Hunter. I think there are enough similarities there, but I think that they could have made enough changes to it to make it not Monster Hunter, and it still would have been just as successful. I genuinely think that. I think what makes Monster Hunter really special is not present in Monster Hunter World. Or not enough of it anyway. What kind of mod would realistically replace Clutch Claw though? Because you're curtailing your damage. Oh, sorry, Clagger is what you said. So, which therefore means that you're going to prevent the monster from getting into that situation where it's awaiting the Clutch Claw to be performed. But aren't you heavily reducing your damage at that point? My understanding is that the whole game is based around the damage that's dealt by Clutch Claw, so don't you... Unless Clutch Claw is still performed, but you don't get that stagger, that lead up to the performing of the Clutch Claw, is that what you're saying? Hello, Beta. Yeah, I don't fully know what you mean by that. There's a mod that fixes the whole balance, so presumably that means that it Instead of increasing the damage of the weapons, I'm assuming that lowers the health of the monster. Which sounds great. Sounds really good. I would play, well, would I play that version of Iceborne? Probably not. If I ever do play Iceborne, it would have to be a heavily modded version. I'm a purist when it comes to video games. If I'm going to mod a video game, I would have to have a very intimate understanding of the unmodded version first. However, I don't have enough respect for Monster Hunter World or Iceborne to experience Iceborne unmodded first. I have too much self-respect for that. Or rather, I don't have enough of a lack of self-respect in order to subject myself to that kind of thing. So, I would actually be happy to have a very tailored, modded Iceborne experience to make it tolerable for me. So, yeah, I mean, I still wouldn't do it anytime soon. I just mean that if I ever did play Iceborne, it would be under those circumstances. Just for the avoidance of doubt. Because I'm sure someone entertains the thought of Doomlink just for shits and giggles one day playing Iceborne. It's not gonna happen, okay? There are no kinds of shits and giggles that I would be on board with that would allow me to experience that game willingly, okay? But if it's modded heavily, I might do it one day. Yeah, the armor system sucks. 100%. And you know, just for context, Ethan and I, when World came out, we didn't meet by complaining about World. I think Ethan knew from the beginning that I had grievances with World. And he was always open to those, but I don't think he really thought about it. And even I was nowhere near as vocal when we first met. Sorry, I should make this very clear. We actually met before World came out, but we weren't close friends. Our friendship developed very much during the early days of World, and we played a lot of World together. And he played a lot of World at the time. That's probably the game that he has, like of the Monster Hunter games, that is probably the one where he has spent the most time just head down grinding through the game. And yeah, I don't remember us discussing how bad the game was or anything like that. Like, we were pretty much on board with her. It was only as time went on that I became more and more disgusted with what I was experiencing, and then Ethan started to take a look at it as well, I think. Well, what you're describing, Beta, I think first started to come about in Monster Hunter Generations. And by extension, Generations Ultimate. The idea that instead of having creative skills that benefit the hunter, it's just damage skills. It's just, how can I stack more and more damage onto my build? You know, things like Quick Sheath, forget that. Things like Focus, forget that. Well, Focus was more of a World thing where it wasn't that beneficial. But, you know, things like that. You didn't have as much focus on skills that would affect more nuanced aspects to the way you would hunt. It would instead literally just be, how many skills can I just pile on here that increase my attack value? It's really unpleasant. It's not a good change. And, you know, like I say, there was a little bit of that in Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. You know, you had the classic crit boost, critical eye +3, challenger +2, you know, all that business, just heavy damage skills. And you got to a point where there was pretty much the stock standard ideal setup for Blade Master, which was all damage skills. So, I'd say that was really the first game where it became apparent. There was a bit of that in 4 Ultimate as well, a game which I should mention in the endgame where it was very easy to get Honed Blade, a skill in this game that was very difficult to get with a mixed set, and a skill which in Freedom Unite, when it was called Stellar Hunter, literally could not be acquired except by using the full White Fatalis set. You know, they changed the balance with that. That's just one of the issues with Monster in general. We've seen it with Frontier, it creeped into the mainline series, and it's just manifested itself in the worst possible way in 5th generation, where, quite frankly, the concept of balance and good game design is very difficult to find. It's almost extinct. In modern Monster, I'm glad you were able to join, Tavo. I was going to mention that you had a free slot if you were still watching. Not sure what our next hunt is going to be. I don't know if it's been discussed. So Mira has just finished making a fully G-rank loadout. I believe that's what's happened, and I think that's what we've been doing up until this point. We've been helping Mira make that set, which is fair enough. Always good to get a G-rank set in G-rank, I find. But that is the objective of this room now that I think about it. Need G armor. We've achieved that. I was trying to check the set, but instead Kayamba had things to say. I think Wilds is going to be Capcom venturing into something different without having learned the lessons they need to learn. That's going to be my guess. Instead of learning the lessons, they're just going to be like, oh fuck it, let's just go with something really different. Maybe that will make people happy. The point isn't to make something really different, it's to figure out what makes Monster Hunter good. Now, you can work out what makes Monster Hunter special and a game that people like Ethan and I might want to play, and then simultaneously have an open world setting. That's very easy to do. But I don't trust that Capcom's done that. I don't think that they can create a game that we want to play. And at the end of the day, there's no real benefit to them making a game that Ethan and I would want to play. Not that I can tell. Not at this point. So I think they are quite content to just have some basic video game that will please world players. I think there's going to be a lot of appeasement and pandering to world players, because I don't think it was their intention to alienate world players. And I also don't believe that it was their intention to attract traditional hunters with Rise. I really don't. I think it was their intention to trick people into thinking that they were catering to traditional hunters, but they definitely didn't do it honestly. Once you played Rise, it was very, very clear that there was zero desire, zero interest in appealing to the traditional hunters. So, pretty obviously, the one thing that they really didn't intend to do was alienate the world players. I think that they had an idea for what world players liked and thought that Rise was going to be that, but it just fucking wasn't. All that was an opportunity for world players to establish their own understanding of what makes Monster Hunter, and then to actually experience streamlining. You know, people who played World as their first game never experienced streamlining. It was their only understanding of what Monster Hunter was. A streamlined version of Monster Hunter was only first experienced by those guys who had first played World when they went and played Rise. And guess what they did when they saw that? They were sickened and disinterested by what they saw. Who would have thought? So I think there's going to be a lot of pandering to the world players. Expect an open world Monster Hunter world. Expect that. For better or for worse. Devil Joe has been posted on the board. What should I use? Maybe bow again. Let's do that. Might do rapid bow. Rapid dragon bow? I don't even know what that is. What is my rapid dragon bow in this game? It might be Stygian Zenoga? No, that's... Well, let's find out. It's not that. That could be used as a rapid dragon bow. I don't think it's my ideal choice though. So it is Stygian. Okay. So non-load up. Rapid. It's already equipped. How foolish of me. I don't know how people can still be labouring under the misapprehension that Rise is somehow for traditional players. That's pathetic. That's just sad. That means that you're clinging to rhetoric instead of playing the fucking game, looking at it, and absorbing what you're experiencing. That's ridiculous. Literally incomprehensible. And embarrassing. I'm embarrassed that people think that it's for traditional hunters. I'm not going to rehash that discussion about how Capcom were demonstrably deceptive when it came to Rise and how it was marketed. But, you know, something Japanese players didn't like how Americanized world was, so they made it Japanese themed. You know. Like, what the fuck were they thinking? So they made it look more Japanese on the surface, and then made it more Americanized in terms of the gameplay and design of the game. Americanized in this context means diluted, streamlined RPG, okay? Just to define that very clearly for you all. So, I said I wasn't going to rehash that discussion, so just, I hope that that is sufficient for you. If it's not, and you need further clarification, I regret to say that you're not going to be getting it today. I need you to define your arguments better, Doomlink. Not convincing. Well, fortunately, today is not my job to convince the conned into realizing that Monster Hunter Rise is the most embarrassing expression of a Monster Hunter game ever dreamed up. Dreamt up? I don't know. I guess dreamt up. Extra small pickle, I don't know. He's definitely not a large one, but I don't think he's really small. I've definitely seen smaller than this. That's one thing I forgot about, the bite into foot stomp. I love that your indignant fan impression is just a 4Kids anime main character, yeah. Well, there you go. I guess that voice is just the most petulant voice that I can think of. But Rapid Bow against Devil Joe is actually a whole lot of fun. just aiming for the face and the stomach. I don't think I've demonstrated it that much. I've had, like, the most fun I've had with that is in Portable Third. I don't know what it is about that game, it just feels like I can hip fire the face of a Devil Joe with Rapid Bow so much more easily than in this game. Maybe PSP Monster Hunter just feels a bit more horizontal, I don't know. But, yeah. Still a pretty fun strategy here. Let's see if it still works. I'm sure it still works, it's just I'm aiming like shit. Yeah, it still works. Let me just give that a try. Hip firing the fact. No, you see, I was right. I think there's a little bit... Yeah, this... Well, at the very least in this area that we're in now, the surface of the ground is not even. So... Yeah, sometimes I'd be able to hip fire it, other times I wouldn't be able to. So I'm just going to aim in most scenarios. Here we go, paralysis. Don't prompt me to do an impression of Weevil Underwood from Yu-Gi-Oh! In fact, I'm going to counter that by calling him Insector Haga, which is his real fucking name. Okay? But yeah, that's probably one of the most intense character voices I've ever heard. That's just so... Just talk about going all in on a voice. Think about... Like how, like the physical volume, if you were standing in the studio when that guy was recording that voice, it would be very loud, I think. You'd have to, like, really get amplitude in your voice to create that sound. Just fucking hell. I do have respect for that voice actor for going all in like that. It's just one of those voices that, you're not going to sit there and just do that one day. Like, you need to work on that. And when you work on it, you just have to fucking commit to it in a big way. It's simultaneously a terrible voice, but also an absolutely brilliant voice. I haven't been aiming for the face as much as I was initially intending to. I guess because the face is a smaller target than the chest. Or stomach, whatever we want to say. Is he gonna eat his tail? If he goes and eats his tail, don't interrupt him, okay? I'm now out of coatings, but that's okay. Oh, Tavo's going to do the wake up. I'm happy with that. A level 3 greatsword charge with the Epitaph Blade is a much better wake up hit than a Barrel Bomb L+. For anyone who needs me to explain why I didn't mind him doing that wake up. Yeah, the bow's very dynamic, Peaberry. Back hops are... I mean, I think that's the only scenario in which I use the back hop. I never use it to get away from the monster or to reposition my critical distance. I just find it to be a much smoother way of cancelling a charge with my bow than rolling forward. Feels less dangerous, I guess. Like a more passive approach to it. Yeah, that's right, Gen 4. So that's when you would pretty much do the double tap of the back hop, and then you would actually do that little dive maneuver. That was a Monster Hunter 4 thing. I think. Or it could have been Generations. It's almost sad, but I'm at that point where I can't remember right now. I think it was Monster Hunter 4, but it could be Generations when that first came about. I just fucking knocked that Devil Joe down. Now, it could have been someone else, because I was very focused on what I was doing in that moment, which was arc shooting my arrows, and looked like that's what knocked him down. I'm going to say that it was all me. No one else contributed in that moment, it was all me. And I want you all to stand back in awe of my abilities. Surprisingly, Beta is saying that she really enjoys the Jurassic Frontier in Generations and Generations Ultimate. I don't know how you could like it that much. Oh no, Jurassic Frontier is okay. Sorry, I'm getting confused with the, is it the Ruined Pinnacle? Something like that? I think it's the Ruined Pinnacle. That is shit. Jurassic Frontier is pretty cool. And I think, yeah, it's got that sort of prehistoric feeling to it. I like it. It's what the Monster Hunter World Great Forest should have fucking been. No, I do not want to be climbing through the fucking multi-level trees just to pursue this fucking flying wyvern for 30 minutes. And someone's gonna say, Doomlink, it's Monster Hunter, you need to hunt the monster down. Well, guess what? The Great Forest actually became my least favourite map in Monster Hunter World because of how convoluted it was designed, or due to the convoluted nature of its design, and the fact that it was so unpleasant to have to pursue monsters through it. I mean, I can't be the only one who felt that way. Surely, having to pursue monsters through the Great Forest in Monster Hunter World was miserable. If they had instead just remade the Jurassic Frontier, then that's fine. I don't mind multi-leveled sections to a map, but God, that was going too far. They went way too far. There was so many levels in the Great Forest. I felt like I was in the fucking treehouse in the Swiss Family Robinson. It was just unnecessary. Anyway. Where are you even going? I think I know where you're going, but it's a weird direction. Well, I suppose it's reasonable. Needs to cool off in the shade. I love the mining nodes in the desert. Look at these. They look like dry buffalo shit. It's great. No, I do genuinely think they're pretty cool. I don't even know what dry buffalo shit looks like, but it probably looks like that. I think you're about to die, and I also think that you're dragging this on for far too long, Double J. There we go. Oh no, I actually like that location, Beta. I think the first gen desert location was pretty cool. I love that big open desert area. The two big open desert areas. Some of the first footage I ever saw of Monster Hunter was actually in that location. back in 2007, when I first discovered Monster Hunter, there was a video on YouTube of someone in Monster Hunter 1, or Monster Hunter G, one of those two games, headlocking a Rathian in the old desert. And yeah, that was one of those moments when I decided, hey, I want to do that. And then I went and picked up Monster Hunter Freedom Unite when that came out. Actually, no, I think that was in 2008. Yeah, it would have been 2008. Anyway, point is, it was a while ago. Alright. I'll do one more hunt. And then that will be all for me. What the hell? I swear I pressed the button to access the box. Devil Drew Gem, Vile Fang, and I think I've probably got enough Devil Drew Rippers, so I will move to sell that. Oh no, I do have space for them as well, shockingly. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate figurative groans of disappointment when I say that it's the last hunt. Means I'm doing something right. At this point, I'm happy to just let Mira post whatever. Well, I wouldn't mind if AJ could post something of his own. He's HR 42. It looks like he doesn't have all that much in the way of G-rank stuff, just based on what he said himself. So I'd like for him to be able to post something. Well, actually, what I'll ask is if AJ actually has something that he, like, at J-rank level that he wants to do. If he doesn't have anything lined up right now, then maybe we'll just continue doing whatever Mira wants to do, but yeah. If there is something you'd like to post, I encourage you to do so. And I'll let Mira know that by popular demand, we have democratically decided, as the majority, which is inclusive of myself, AJ, and Tavo, that you have posted enough. It's our turn now. Of course, there is no democracy here, because Mira, being the room host, can just kick us all, but it's all right. It's the last hunt. Really? I don't even need to communicate it. I'm sure Mira will capitulate. Tavo is crying in the chat with Peepo Sad Cat for some reason. Yeah, I don't mind. Would you rather... Okay, what would you prefer to do? I'm going to let Mira know. No. I'll leave it up to you. Whatever you want to do. Whether it's Jen or Miralis, I'm happy with either. Of course, says Mira. That's a good attitude. What I'm going to do in the meantime is visit the bathroom. I'll be back in a moment. Ethan's childish jokes have actually leveled up. He's gone from, "he's pooping, guys," to, "he's defecating." Lovely. Just the kind of contribution we all need. Tambo's really getting in there. Alright, what did we get in the end? The Black Flame of Calamity. Yeah, I think Morales is a black dragon, isn't he? Is that established in the lore? He must be, surely. He's so Fatalis-like, he couldn't not be a black dragon. Has to be said. Alright. Do you know what I don't think I've ever used against a Morales? Is a bow. I probably have, I just don't remember doing it. So I'm going to bring Pierce Dragon Bow. It's going to be this Pierce Dragon Bow. And assuming that I can use power coatings with it, I'm going to bring combination materials for said power coatings, because I want to be able to use as many as I can. There is a vehicle reversing in close proximity to that of myself. That makes it sound like I'm about to get run over. I mean that the sound of it might be audible. That's quite funny. I must say that there's a vehicle that's backing up. It was rather close to me. Anyway. For fuck's sake. Put that back in. Put the goddamn voucher away. Not the nullberries, the voucher. I might need the nullberries. Well, no, I wouldn't need them for Fireblight, because there's a whole lot of water. But that's alright. I will bring nitro shrooms and empty vials. If I even have empty vials. Which I do not appear to have in my box, which is probably the right way to approach it, because it's a bit of a waste of space. If I need empty vials, I can just buy them. These guys have been very patient. And I thank them for it. I have waylaid them sufficiently. Underwater bow is very sad. For those who are not very familiar with underwater combat, what I'm about to say is pretty well known, but probably only to people who play underwater combat Monster Hunter games frequently. Your critical distance with anything that you shoot underwater is heavily reduced. You really have to get up close and personal with your pierce shots, even. Really close. I'm willing to say that it perhaps even halves your critical distance. So, yeah, it makes sense because of the higher pressure underwater. It's going to lose its power much faster as it travels through water versus traveling through air. It all makes a lot of sense. But it's still annoying. It doesn't make it less annoying, is the point. Why are you guys spamming W in the chat? It must be some sort of Twitch garbage that I don't know about. Spearfishing is a thing? Well, that's rather different, isn't it? So either you've got the spear in your hand. So I could be wrong about this, but you've got spearfishing and then you've got spear guns, right? So if you're spearfishing, do you actually throw it underwater, or do you keep it in your hand and then thrust it like a lance? Obviously a spear gun is going to let loose the thing underwater, but you're thinking of spear guns in the context of spearfishing. Well, that is a thing, you're right. But I feel like that's a little bit different, because a bow, you can imagine, and probably, let's say, bow guns in Monster Hunter. Let's imagine that they're designed to work best in a non-underwater scenario, but they happen to still function underwater. So, yeah, I'd say a spear gun probably is designed to shoot the thing, like the projectile, at a velocity that would be pretty excessive for something on land. But I'd say the shape of the spear, and also the force with which it is ejected from the gun, makes it appropriate for underwater scenarios. That's my theory, because I know nothing about spearfishing, not really. I don't know if a person who does old-fashioned spearfishing actually throws it underwater or not. I don't... They probably do. But, yeah, that's how little I know. I love this bow so much. You know what, the Elatrion bow would probably be in my top 5 favourite weapons in the series. I just really love the design of it. Just look at the thing. Okay, I need to hit his face while it's right here. Forgive me. Oh, I'm about to get another opportunity to hit it. Poor bastard. Obviously, a bow underwater doesn't make sense. I understand. And in saying what you said, I think you mean that a gun for use underwater is designed with the water in mind. I don't think you so much mean the projectile, because if you think about it, an arrow in terms of its shape and aerodynamics, I suppose in this sense we mean hydrodynamics. The shape of it is still ideal. I think it has to relate instead to the way that it's ejected out of the device, whatever machine is used to eject it, I think, is the relevant issue here. It's not the arrow. I mean, unless an arrow is too light, that's possible. Maybe arrows are too light for anything requiring good hydrodynamics. I don't even know if hydrodynamics is a word. I just thought, well, if we're going to look at aerodynamics, then surely the water equivalent would be hydrodynamics. I'm candid about that fact because it could actually be called something entirely different, and to suggest that I know what I'm talking about would actually lead me to sound even less informed than I perhaps am. Okay, apparently W means win, and L means lose. Okay. I have seen people write take the L which contextually I realized meant loss or lose. But I hadn't come across that W business. That's alright. It's extremely sophisticated. I mean, let us not make any... I'm not going to suggest that it's a lower form of communication. It's more efficient, isn't it? It's more efficient. Just type a W instead of expressing yourself. Who needs to express themselves in this day and age, really? Individuality? What's that about? Alright. It's time to combine for some power coating. I don't think I can get 50 out of this. Oh no. I can get 20, how about that? That's a bit insulting, isn't it? Oh, so if we're talking about the fletching of an arrow, the fletching of an arrow would be designed to travel through air, but it would obviously be unhelpful to have feathers shaped in a certain way to travel through water, so you're probably talking about the fins on a, I don't know, spear being shot out of a spear gun being ideal for travelling through water, but I'm thinking, in addition to that, that the weight must also be relevant. Surely the weight of the projectile needs to be heavier to pass through water more effectively. I could be wrong, but anyway. Oh, I think that was a successful Dragonator. You see, the use of the Dragonator during this quest is nowhere near as epic or significant as the Gemmoran quest. You hit that fucking Dragonator in the Gemmoran quest and it's like you've just saved the world. Whereas here, if you weren't listening carefully, you wouldn't even know. I heard the sound of the Dragonator going out, and at that point I knew that the impact had taken place, but the fucking monster didn't even flinch. So, there you are. Jen doesn't just yell, he fucking steps back. Like, some seriously heavy damage has been dealt to him. It is the great retreat. The beast retreats after being stuck with man's greatest anti-dragon technology. Stuck by would be the correct grammatical formulation. Oh. One thing that I have to say is that arc shot is very fun underwater. Look at how it draws itself. See that? It doesn't so much arc. I mean, it does technically arc, but where it ends up is actually quite below your position. See where it's drawn? See that? How cool is that? Don't you think that's cool? I like that. Oh. Let's get that face. Don't want to miss out on that opportunity. Yeah, Gemmoran is amazing. The scenario of it is incredible. That was one of the first moments where I truly understood how amazing Tri was when it came out. And keeping in mind, my only experience of Monster Hunter up until that point was portable Monster Hunter on a PlayStation Portable. And yeah, you fucking walk into that Jamaran hunt on the Nintendo Wii. Wow. Big deal. I do need to stress, though, that I had been left awestruck several times before I first experienced the Gen Hunt while playing Monster Hunter Tri. Pretty much as soon as you launch the game, you're sitting there going, wow, I am playing the latest Monster Hunter game, and it really feels like it. It really felt like it. It was really good. And I think it holds up. Provided you're emulating it, of course. I don't think it holds up very well. Like, if you were to launch it on Wii now, I don't think it holds up at all. Looks very muddy, very ugly. But it is what it is. I think we were still used to fairly low resolutions, even in 2010. PC gamers would disagree. PC gamers would say, what are you talking about? We've been running our graphics cards through DVI connectors at 1080p for years. What is this 480 progressive scan? What's this about? Again, for those who don't know, Tabo is someone that I met on the 3 Ultimate servers, like literally just hanging around here. He eventually realized that I think he may have randomly stumbled across my Twitch channel not realizing, or perhaps even YouTube channel not realizing that I even made videos. I never told him. But yeah, I used to play with him every now and again, just randomly hunting here in 3 Ultimate. And AJ is from Husterverse. So yeah, big thanks to both of them for joining in. Oh fuck, I sold a True Armosphere. I keep doing that accidentally. But, yeah. That was a good time. Always good to sit down and play 3 Ultimate. I will do it as much as I can up until the closure of online services for the Wii U. In the meantime, however, I shall bid you all farewell, and thank you for joining in. Bye bye for now.